good morning, and welcome. My name is Angela Davis, and I'm the 4am Quilter. And before we begin the video, I wanted to share a couple things with you and sort of touch base a little bit, get comfortable. It is probably about 5 in the morning on Saturday. Went to bed very early last night. For some reason, when I got off work, just, you know, I needed to just be in my chair. I put on YouTube the fireplace, just to have that relaxing sound in the background. I read a little bit, and then once I felt sleepy, I just listened to my body and went to bed early. So I ended up, waking up early. It's my routine now. But I've been up since about 3:30, and I'm ready to start the video. So with that being said, I wanted to share with you my newest vintage book find that I found. I love my vintage books. This is by Diana Leone. It's called The Sampler Quilt. And the front cover shows the full-size quilt. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it has 30 blocks. But inside the book, it shows you variations of that. So you don't have to necessarily make all 30 blocks. This is copyright 1980. 1980. Oh my. I didn't realize this. It says on the cover, the quilt on the cover is a miniature made by Elizabeth Voris of Rancho Palos Verdes. Rancho Palos Verdes. The blocks measure less than 3 inches. Oh yeah. Oh my. There are 85 pieces in the log cabin, which are less than 1/16 inch wide. There are over 500 hours in this great quilt, and it was completely done by hand. That means hand piecing, hand quilting. Oh, wow. I am pleased to share this magnificent work with you, thanks to Elizabeth. Okay, that was the first time I read the story of that cover quilt. I had no idea. I thought that was like a bed-size quilt. Wow. For all you new quilters out there, sometimes we think smaller is better when we start to quilt, thinking, oh, this little 3-inch block, it's only this big, It's better to start with a larger block because your pieces are larger. They're easy to handle and manipulate. The smaller the block, the smaller your pieces, and the more difficult it is to get an accurate quarter and seam allowance, and the more difficult it is to pass it under your presser foot. So that's just a little word of the wise because I've been there. So just a little side note there. But anyway, inside the book, she shows, of course, the basic techniques in the beginning. So she talks about different sizes of quilts. And she also talks about fabric. And she also talks about templates. And of course, the templates they're using are the cardboard cutout templates where you are hand stitching and hand piecing. And this is how I was taught my very first quilt. I was taught how to make the template, how to mark the sewing line, and then add the quarter and seam allowance, because I was taught how to hand sew the seams, not how to machine sew the seams for piecing. And I took my first quilting class, it was the year before I got married, 1991. The very few classes now still teach that technique. There are classes out there that do. And there are videos that still do. Anyway, I digress. But this is, like, for instance, here's the bear's paw. There's the templates. And then down here, it shows you a couple different variations. So just a wonderful, wonderful book. And then in the middle, they have different examples of different students who made their quilts. Some of them used only, like some of them only used 6 of the blocks. Some of them used 12 or 16. They didn't necessarily do all of them that's represented on the front cover. So they got to pick and choose. But I'm sure each one shows them a different technique in regard to piecing and layout. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful vintage book. Well, there's another example of a different layout that they're showing you. Just a wonderful, wonderful book by Diana Leone. The video that I'm doing this week is going to be all about, yes, fall leaves. Okay, so I have some wonderful resources for leaves, and I've gone to this one, which is by Maggie Malone, and I have a few of her books now, the vintage books that I've collected. This one is 1001 Patchwork Designs by Maggie Malone, and this one was printed, I believe, 1980. 1982. And this one, you know, back then when they did books like this, you know, this is how they did it. And you had to draft, they gave you instructions on how to draft your block. And ironically enough, there is my first leaf pattern right there. So there's one that I can choose from. That one is called Cactus Bud, but it's interchangeable. I could use that as a leaf pattern. On this page, we have the maple leaf, which is the bottom corner here, which that's the standard one that you see now on videos. This one is called Sawtooth number 1. But if I put a little strip there in that corner, that could be another variation of a leaf. So that's another design. And let me show you the other design in here that I liked. Here it is. And this one is called Sweet Gum Leaf. I like that one. So I'm going to show you how to make that one. I really like that version. And because the pattern, that's basically a 9 patch. And if I break that down as a 9 patch, I can make that multiples of 3. So I could do a 6-inch block, I could do a 9-inch block, I could do a 12-inch block, or I could do a 15-inch block. So, you know, when you're looking at a pattern, okay, such as this one, you want to look, where are the lines at? And when you look at those lines, you can see the 9 patch. And if you can break down a block into patches, 4 patch, 9 patch, 8 patch, 5 patch, you can break it down and then make it whatever size you want as long as it's divisible by a common denominator. So this one is divisible by 3, which means I can make a 6-inch block, a 9-inch block, a 12-inch block, a 15-inch block. So I'm going to do that one. I like that variation. I also like that sort of curve on the stem. I like that. I like that one really well. So that's the block we're going to make today. To recap, I'm choosing 1001 Patchwork Designs by Maggie Malone, copyright 1983. And this is the pattern we're doing, and this is called the sweet gum leaf. And what I've done is I've broken down the pattern along the longest lines that you'll see here. And it's going to create a 9 patch. And that's how I've broken down the block. So because I've broken down the block into a 9 patch, it makes it divisible by 3. And I've chosen to do a finish size of 12 inches, which means each of these squares has to finish at 4 inches, or approximately. The 9 patch finishes at 12 inches. There's 9 blocks that make up the total block. Each of these squares will finish at 4 inches. So I'm going to have 3 flying geese units, and the flying geese units are here where the points of those leaves come out. Then I'm going to have 1 quarter square triangle in the middle, and I'm going to have 5 background squares. There's 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 here, because the stem is going to get appliqued on. And then of course the applique stem. So what does that mean as far as cutting? With a flying geese unit, I'm going to have 2 dark and 2 of the lighter. I'm choosing a dark brown and sort of an orangey red. And then I need 2 squares on either side to make the geese. So I need 2 in the dark brown, 2 at 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches cut, and 4 of my background at 2.5 inches square. Because if you'll remember in the picture, these 2 are the same and this one is different, and I'm following the pattern in that way. So I'm doing the brown calico for each side petal and then the orange calico for the top. Okay, so that's why I need 2 at 2.5 inches by 4 inches, and then I need 4 of these to create that triangle effect for the flying geese. And then I need 1 orange print at 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and I need 2 of the backgrounds cut at 2.5 inches square to create the flying geese unit. And then this center is actually a quarter square triangle. Okay, which means it's a square cut up into 4 quarters that are triangles. Okay, but I'm not doing it like a traditional quarter square triangle. I'm doing it a little differently because these 2 are different from these 2 colors. And then I need the 4 corners cut at 4.5 inches, and then I need 1 extra square cut at 4.5 inches, and that's where the applique stem is going to go. Let's get started. I've decided to make my half square triangles first. Okay, so I need this on one side, and I need 2 browns on the other. So here is the brown. There we go. And I need 1 orange. There we go. Now, I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to stitch this here. All right, here we go. Okay, now we're going to open it up like this. Oops. Okay, because remember, the top is the orange print, the 2 sides are the brown, and the bottom is a solid. So we're just going to go like this, and we're going to use that little string as though it were a pin, okay? I'm going to stitch that. Make sure my seams are going in the right direction. You press this. Okay, now there it is. And I'm going to trim that down to 4.5 inches. There it is. I think. Let me measure again. Yeah, it's 4.5 inches. That's what I need. You're going to need 2 half triangles. You're going to cut them at, no, you're going to need 2 squares of 4.5 inches, cut them in half, and then you're going to lay them out according to the design. So 2 dark on one side, the light print on top, and then the solid underneath. You're going to sew them, press them, and then trim it down. And you want to be careful of that center, okay? We are going to be opening up that center to put in the stem, because we are going to be appliquing the stem, okay? So let me set that aside. Okay, the flying geese unit, I'm doing individual geese like this. I need, let's see, I need 2 of the brown and 1 of the orange, the print orange. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our squares on top on one side like this. Okay. Remember, because we have 2 dark of the leaf on one side and then the orange on top. And we're going to do a little vertical line on each. And then what we're going to do is we're sewing right on the line. The reason being is we're creating the flying geese unit. And I'm just going to go backwards just 2 stitches. Just stitching right on that line. Now I'm going to feed the next one in. And again, I'm just stitching right on the line. Okay? And then I'm going to cut these apart, take them to the ironing board and press them. I press them all flat to set the seam, and then what I'm going to do is on this corner I'm going to fold this bottom corner to the outside corner like that. And there's my first flying geese unit, and I'm going to press that. Okay, so we're going to get 3 more squares, line it up on the opposite side, like so. We're going to draw a line, here we go, from this corner to this corner. Okay, now at this point, pin, because we don't want it wiggling around and moving. I know I don't want mine wriggling around and moving. And I'm sewing from the outside toward that bottom center, okay? So here we go. I'm going to hold on to my thread, do a couple little back stitches. Just because I'm at that corner there. Taking the pin out. Okay, so at this point it's going to look like this. Okay, I'm going to press it flat to set the seam, and then I'm going to press it this way. There you have it. Pretty, pretty flying geese. So pretty. So here we go. Let me think. Let me look at the picture. All right, so we're going to look at the picture. Here we go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. But, there we go. But what are we missing? We need our other 2.5-inch strips. Okay, so we need 1 here. We need 1 here. Oops. 1 here. And then we need our flying geese unit. Here. Here. Oh! Oh my! Anybody see what I did wrong? This unit was supposed to go the other way. I was supposed to do the background fabric as the rectangle and the squares in the color. Okay. Okay, so if we follow the image in the book, we have the top corner, a rectangle, we have our flying geese, and then this top corner. We have this rectangle, the flying geese, the center, the rectangle, and this flying geese. And then we have 3 solids on the bottom. Let me move this up for you a little bit. Now, I haven't done my pattern for my leaf yet. I wanted to wait until I got to a point so that I would know how long I need to make this curve. All right, so I'm going to take a strip here like this, sort of angle it. So from about here to here. I think that will work. So I think I'm going to sew these 2 together. Okay, what I've done is I opened up this seam right here in the corner, and I just pulled that leaf right through, that stem. Now I'm just going to play with it a little bit. There. Just going to do a zigzag. Gonna zigzag down the bottom, and then I'm gonna zigzag around the top. That's all I'm gonna do. Okay, so I have that stitched. Okay, I won't be able to go in and re-sew that seam from this side because the zigzags cover it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch right here just to make sure that seam is where it's supposed to be. Okay? Because remember, I had to take that seam out to get that stem in there. Okay, back stitch, do a little top stitch there. I don't think anybody's going to even notice that. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's turn it around. Okay, now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my flying geese units. I'm going to sew those first. Okay, here we go. I want that seam to land on that X. Here's the X I'm talking about. A little X right there. That is my 1/4 inch. All right. I can get these on the ironing board. Set the seams. Open them up. Now when I open these up, I'm going to iron toward the solid rectangle, because that's where the less resistance is. Okay. This one goes on top. These two go on the sides. And I am going to sew in rows now. I'm doing vertical rows. Okay, so there is the top in the middle. Now I'm going to do the bottom. I'm doing the top in the middle. Okay, top and middle, now the bottom. Okay, we're going to take it to the ironing board, set those seams. Okay, now I'm going to do this row, the top in the middle, like that. Now we're going to do our rows. Gonna press. There it is. And here it is in the book. And here it is. Now I cut enough pieces where I'm going to make another one. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. You know, even though I made a little mistake with my flying geese units, mistakes can be corrected. That's the beauty of sewing, isn't it? And as far as these ones are concerned, I'll put these in my stash and they can go in maybe a scrappy quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and make another one of these blocks. So I made a second block because I really enjoyed putting this together, and I'm going to do a table runner. So I'm going to put on these real pretty, the brown and white picnic checkerboard. I call it a picnic checkerboard pattern because that's what it reminds me of. So I'm just straight stitching these on. When I get to this point, I want to line up point to point. Okay, so I am pinning at this point. So I'm going to turn this over like so, and just sort of adjust where I need to adjust, and then pin. Turn it over just to sort of give it a look-see, and I think that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to stitch it. So let's see. I don't know, will I have enough? 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 I Okay, I need a little bit on that end. And then I need another long strip for the other side. Here we go. Here's the second strip. Okay, I'm going to sew this bottom on. So here it is. And I'm going to put the side strips on. Remember, when you're sewing small projects like this, you know, put those bobbins in your machine to use them up. You know, put the darks with the darks, the lights with the lights, use them up. Okay, I'm going to press. Okay, so here it is. I did the stem in a straight, and I did the stem in the curve the way it is in the pattern in the book. So let me show you this direction. Let me show you this direction. And I think I like the curve better. I thought I'd try it with the straight just to see how I would like it. Okay, now I'm going to choose some fabric for the back and figure out what I'm going to do with the batting. Now what I'm going to do is, or rather what I have done, this was one piece but it was too short. So I cut it down the middle and then I added this piece because I just had a remnant of that. So this is going to be the back. Okay, so I'm putting the batting down first, this way. More threads. More threads. It's just the way it is. Now I'm going to put the back down, but I'm putting the back down face up. Because this is going to be a table runner, I'm doing the inside out method. I'm using straight pins, not safety pins, because it's small, so it'll be easy to work with. And how this works is, some people call it the pillowcase method, where you put the batting down first, and then you put the backing and the top right sides together. You sew all the way around, but you leave a hole. And then when you're finished, you trim it on all four sides, and then you turn it inside out. Just going backwards a couple stitches. Gonna trim. Okay, we're gonna take out these pins. I like to double check because if I don't, it seems like I always forget something and then I get pinched. Okay, I'm going to trim this, and I'm trimming right up against that quilt top. Okay. I'm going to clip that corner a little bit to take out some of the bulk. Now the side where the opening is, I'm leaving a little extra, and that helps with the turning. Get to the corner, trim, let's turn this over. Okay, remove that, get that out of the way. Okay, I've trimmed the corners. I don't think there's any pins in here. Otherwise, I'm going to feel it. Okay, grab the end, the corner, start to pull through. And this is why you have to backstitch, because if you don't, you're going to lose some of those threads during the turning. And then that little hole can become a really big hole. Ask me how I know that. We're going to use our little pointy tool. Okay, let me see. Another thread. More threads, okay. Just gonna pull out the edge a little bit. Corner's good. This corner's got a little tuck in it. Okay, now I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around, and that is going to help tuck in that closure and enclose that, okay? Can you see me? Okay, I went around the border and I stitched along the interior there. And I don't know if I should practice my meandering or not. Well, there's only one way to get better at something. That's by practicing. When you meander, you bring down the feed dogs. 1, 2, 3. Now we're just going to start. Okay, let's see how I did. Okay, well, I got off a little bit here, but that's okay. The dark and the patterned fabric, you don't see it as much, so this is actually a good one to practice on because it's not showing up as much. So I'm okay with that. I think that time went smoother because I didn't have as many stops and starts. I'm pleased with it. Ran into a little problem here with the seam, but in general, I'm pleased with it. There it is. Fall leaf table runner. Fall leaf table runner. The only thing I have to do different is in the beginning when I was doing my measurements. My measurement was off here. Or rather, my measurement wasn't off, my color was off. So I do need 2 of the dark brown rectangles, okay? But I needed 2 of the orange rectangles with 4 of the print squares. And then over here, I needed 1 of the orange print rectangle, 1 of the background orange, and then 2 squares of the print orange because I got those backwards in the beginning. I did the curve stem as in the pattern, and then I did the straight stem here. I really like the curve. If I were to do it again, I would definitely do the curve. I overcut my triangles here and then I trimmed it down. That was the easiest way that I could do it. So what I did was I started out with a 5-inch square and cut them in half and then put each in position according to the diagram in the book. If I had to do it over again, I would start with about a 4.5-inch square, not as big, so I wouldn't have to trim as much, but I'd rather have a little bit more than a little bit less. The center is 3 inches. The 2 ends are 3 inches and the side borders are 1 3/4. And then I used a 1 hole panel that I cut down the middle and put this little panel in between because this wasn't quite big enough, and I think it works well. I used scrap batting in the middle. Let me see how much this measures so that we know what the finished size is. So this finishes to approximately 31.5 inches by 13.5 inches wide. I really like this pattern. And again, it's in the book 1001 Patchwork Designs by Maggie Malone. And in here it's called Sweet Gum Leaf. Sweet Gum Leaf, but that could be any type of a fall leaf. I really enjoyed it, and it can be done in many different color combinations. I decided to go with the shading that it had in the book, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Well, here it is. All finished. The fall leaf table runner. Show you the back. I really enjoyed exploring the traditional patterns, the vintage books, and the fun blocks that I come across. Some that I know I will never do, and some that I definitely want to try, like this one. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Give me a comment. I'd love to hear from everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Angela Davis, and I'm the 4am Quilter. Have a great week. Here's a little hug from me.